Well, Dave, it is Friday morning still. We've been here for 2 days. It's taken a while to actually put something on the recorder here, but we decided to take our time this year and get the vibe of the show and go see what was out there and really figure out who we wanted to talk to and just go from there. So, what do you think, man?
Well, I'll tell you what. This is first thing I think is the Nationals are fully back. This is the first one post-COVID where all the restrictions are gone so that all of the foreign vendors and manufacturers were able to come in. Tamiya's here, Kinetic's here, Edward Special Hobby, etc.
Zukimura. There's one other, the company that's got the I Love Kits banners here.
Yeah, and that is the only thing that was missing from Las Vegas and Omaha.
So we're kind of getting a trade show vibe again.
Yes, yeah, and the vendor rooms it's huge. It is pretty much every bit as large as, say, Chattanooga was. The vendors are fantastic, which is always a big part of the show. The facility is good. As long as you don't step outside and burst into flame, the facility is
pretty
great.
hot.
And there's an energy going on that seems to be building year over year.
That's right.
Since 2021, and you can really feel it here. So, and my God, the models. As of yesterday, Thursday night, there were 2,800 entries, not 2,800 models, 2,800 entries. Quite a number of those entries had quite a number of models.
That's right.
So, I mean, I'm waiting for the final count, but I would not be surprised to see a record number of models. And again, I think that's post-COVID. A lot of the guys who got back into modeling are coming, and they're not only coming, but they're entering.
I wonder how many came through the door today. So,
yeah,
they were stacked up down there at 9 when registration was about to open, but I just couldn't get a feel for how many it was.
Yeah. Well, I talked to our friend Mike Agdakavich, who does registration every year, and he says on a typical Friday they will get another 200 to 400 entrants. So depending on how many models each entrant has, that could be a significant number of kids.
It could be.
So, but then again, a crowded model room is the best problem in the world to have.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. We spent some time in the Thursday night in the model room looking at the models, and the quality just keeps getting better and better and better.
Sure.
Just, as you're walking along the aisle, you're stopped by a stunning model. Then you take 5 steps and you're stopped by another one. The quality is just fantastic. It's great to see. I mean, I find it inspiring, even if I look at some of this and go, I never could do that.
Well, hopefully we'll talk to a couple of builders. We got a couple picked out that are kind of on both ends of the spectrum. We'll get to those later, but we've got certainly one picked out for quality.
Yes.
And then one picked out for the incredible story behind it. We look forward to talking to those folks.
Yep. So I can't wait.
All right.
Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby. Let's join Mike and Kentucky Dave as they strive to be informative, entertaining, and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
Well, Dave, we have survived. We lived to tell about it. We're back from the IPMS National Convention in San Marcos, Texas. Evan, you're back with us for episode 96. Thanks for coming back to book in this trip.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's like you've been attached at the hip for the last week almost.
Amen. That was a heck of a trip. I'm telling you, 1,068 miles in one day is probably about my limit in a moving vehicle that's not an airplane.
Well, time-wise, that's about my limit in an airplane.
Yeah, that was
That was a long haul.
that was a long haul both ways, but it was fun. I still maintain best 4 days of the year every year.
Well, this time it was more like 6 days with all the traveling and me coming in the night before and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, it was very fun being able to do the road trip with you guys because it basically added another day onto the Nats for me, being able to hang out with all my modeling buddies and just go on a fun trip and adventure and talk models and all that good stuff. And we also survived the nacho cheese incident. No context needed.
Well, Evan, other than the show and the post after, what's up in your model sphere?
Oh, I'm just riding off the high from the Nats. I think I got a bit of a cold on the way home or something, but I'm doing all right. And I just, I got home. I don't do what Dave does. I file all my models up into the stash and put them on my ScaleMates catalog, and then I just dream about what my next project's going to be because I'm really amped up now.
Well, what'd you see at the show you liked that's got you inspired? Anything?
Well, I have that Tamiya KV2 that I've been planning on working on for a little while. I have the 3D printed oil cans for that from you that I got at Heritage Con. And there were a few really nice KV2s at the show that I was very inspired by. So that might be my next project.
That KV collection at the show was really nice.
Oh, absolutely.
Dave, what's up in your model sphere, my friend?
Well, I'm not quite as resilient as young Evan. Trips took a toll, but I'm like him. I'm riding the high. Every year I come home riding the high, inspired to get to the bench, to get back to modeling, which I don't think I'm going to be able to do until Friday. We're recording this on a Wednesday, but till Friday, just because of other life things intervening. But I'm itching to go, man. This has been I've got to say, this San Marcos rivaled Chattanooga, which frankly I didn't think any other nationals was going to approach. So I'm buzzing.
Well, hopefully there's always new high tides.
That's what we keep hoping. We'll see. So how about you?
Well, like you, I'm trying to. I'm recovered now, but I tell you, we did better coming back than going down as far as swapping off the mileage.
Yes.
But I think that many days in the dry Texas air and then car AC kind of dehydrated me a little bit, but hopefully that's the worst of it. And some activities in the hotel room probably dehydrated me a little bit as well.
Well, you know what? If you're dehydrated, there's nothing better than modeling fluid to help you along.
Think? I'm thinking the modeling fluid might be what dehydrated me.
No, I think it was that Texas heat. I don't think the modeling fluid had anything to do with it. Speaking of modeling fluid, Evan, I assume you have some modeling fluid with you?
Yes, but because I have a bit of a cold, I'm just having some. This is one of those carbonated, flavored, sugarless water beverages that are, better for you than soda. This is a Farm Boy, which is a Canadian grocery store chain here. Orange and vanilla flavored sparkling water, 0% ABV.
Okay. So that's going to help you get rehydrated.
Yes.
Mike, what's your modeling fluid?
I'm drinking Luckenbach Road Whiskey.
Oh, man.
Now, this is a light whiskey from Luckenbach, Texas. Provided by none other than Rob Booth from the Texas gang down there putting on the show. And we'll have a good taste and see how it works out at the end. Well, what do you got going on? I hear glass rattling.
Yeah, I am also I'm sampling a new first-time item for me. It shouldn't be. Frankly, should have probably gotten my Kentucky card revoked for not having had this earlier. But our friend Derek Post brought us some Jefferson's bourbon, and which I've never had before, and I'm looking forward to it. It looks good. I know plenty of people who've had it and tell me how good it is. I'll let you know at the end of the episode, but I don't think I'll be disappointed.
Well, I tell you what, before we get into listener mail and what folks can expect for the rest of this episode, we recorded a few segments along the way during our time in San Marcos, and we're going to cut the first one in right here. And it's from an outfit we found in the vendor room called Lazy Dog Hobby Studio, and the proprietor is Mr. Brett Van Dyke. Well, Dave, we got one of the vendors off the vendor floor to actually come over here and talk to us.
Yep.
Mr. Brett Van Dyke. Brett, where are you from?
Originally from Houston, currently live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, because I got tired of hurricanes, heat, and concrete.
Well, I'm from Johnson City originally.
So when did you move to Chattanooga?
December of 2019, right before everything just went to crap.
Okay, so you
man.
missed the convention in Chattanooga in 2019.
Yes, I do, and I am sad that I did because I heard it was fantastic.
It definitely was.
The guys put on a good show every year. I've been a vendor for the last couple at the show, so.
I'm hoping that you can convince the Chattanooga guys to bid again.
Well, talking to one of the guys that's local, and he's part of the group, he says they're going to trying to rope me in to be part of the group, which I really should be part of the group because it's getting smaller. So,
Yeah.
Well, Brett, we brought you over here because you got a little business called Lazy Dog Hobby Studio, and you're making some laser cut items that are pretty useful. And one of them caught our eye in particular, a paint rack, a wall-mounted paint rack. So give us a little background on what you got going on, and then we'll talk about that paint rack in particular because that's the one that really interests me.
well, I do the modeling like this. I also do a lot of wargaming, 40K, stuff like that, and I have a paint monkey on my back. And I got a desk, build my own solutions. And you know what? The laser cutter looks like a lot of fun. Bought a laser cutter, started doing some stuff for myself, made paint racks, made terrain for 40K, made some desk stuff. Then I put it on Etsy, and then it went nuts.
Well, that's good.
Paint racks I sell like crazy. So I wanted something that could go on the wall, store a lot of paints, easy to make. Selection. I've got paint racks for sizes for almost everything, even to the point of having tube paints, craft paints.
Describe the way your paint racks look, because they are different. They're wall mount.
They're wall mount. The I'll call them shelves. They're angled with I guess maybe a 80% circle. The paints fit on it, and they're just held in by gravity. So you can easily see the paints, pull them out, they don't fall. Somebody goes, well, it looks like that defies gravity, but it was a different style. I saw something like it, and I'm like, you know what, that looks pretty cool. That looks better than a flat shelf, and took a little while to get the design right so things don't hit each other. But on my Etsy shop, you can order paint racks with, I want some large ones to hold Tamiya paints and some to hold Vallejo, and you can get that in one rack. You can't do it here, but when you order online, easy enough to combine because it's all interchangeable.
Well, and the nice thing is with the way they're angled down, the fact is you can see the tops of the paint. So,
if it's color coded on the top, you can see it. I'm red green colorblind. Doesn't help me at all, but it helps a lot of people. I like to turn it so I can read the name of the paint, and that's why they're staggered. So you generally can see the labels of each one.
So if you're red-green colorblind, how do you paint Warhammer 40K stuff?
It doesn't matter. It's however I want to paint it.
Gotcha.
It's why I don't do. If I'll do, airplanes and stuff, and luckily most things give you the color code.
Right.
But if one of those color codes really doesn't match what it's supposed to be, I'll never know.
Gotcha.
Well, I think it's a good idea because I've looked at those. The stair-step type bench top paint racks, and they look like the footprint just takes up way too much space.
I will be honest. The first one I designed was one of those stair types that sit on the bench. Then I realized this doesn't help me at all. It didn't save me any space. So then it was rapidly to one to go on the wall.
Well, cool. Well, tell folks where they can find this stuff who aren't at the show.
If you're on Etsy, Lazy Dog Hobby Studio, and if you go to the website, Lazy Dog Hobby Studio. It'll take you to the Etsy page too. Just redirect. So everything's on Etsy because it's simple for me.
That's a good thing. Well, thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it. Wish you luck, and I'm hoping to pick up some of the wall mounts when I get a little further in my shop design. But yeah, that's definitely the way I want to go.
Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Brett had some interesting things. Dave, Evan, did you see those paint racks?
Yes, indeed, I did. I chatted with him for a little bit. Not only did he have impressive paint racks and other little bits and bobs for your bench holding brushes and stuff, but he had a really nice F4 Phantom that I was admiring, displaying one of his aircraft holding devices there. And I got his card because I thought maybe this will be something I might need in the future. And my buddy Bruce Worrell, he got some of their paint racks as well. He was very excited about that. They looked really, really well done and perfect for saving some space on your bench, putting them up on the wall and everything like that.
All right. Well, let's get into listener mail, guys.
All right.
Up first, Roger Newman from Brisbane, Australia. And a couple of days ago, he was listening to episode 60 during his catch-up on Plastic Model Mojo, and he laughed out loud at your unfortunate choice of modeling fluid and the ensuing listener feedback, Dave.
Okay.
You remember what that was?
Is that the peanut butter whiskey?
Yes, it is.
Oh. Okay.
You're never going to get that one away. That's going to haunt you forever.
Right. I'm never going to live that down. That's
Gonna have to pull it from the catalog.
Nobody brought me peanut butter whiskey or a jar of Jif this year. So
That's right. So maybe it's down the road.
maybe that's right. Maybe I'm living it down, which means I need to go get some new weird one and try it.
Well, he's dismayed to see that your reaction has hit the local U.S. whiskey and bourbon sales to the point they're now exporting the unfortunate libation out to former U.K. colonies like Australia. He found it at one of their larger liquor outlets. So I guess you're an influencer, Dave. You've crushed the market. Our bad press has caused them much grief and anxiety, and now they're having to export their product too.
That may end up resulting in Australia declaring war on us. And, I can't say that wouldn't be justified.
I think not. It's probably true.
I hope not.
Oh, Dr. Matt Schaefer. Now, Matt was the one who put together the big stinking 50-person barbecue run over to Black's. What'd you think of that, Evan?
That was amazing. I was very bloated by the end of that. I was just inhaling as much brisket and sausage as I could, and it was like the best stuff ever.
Yeah.
And I probably had a gallon of sweet tea as well.
Probably did.
Well, that brisket, if you got the juicy parts of the brisket, man, that was unbelievably good.
Well, Matt, thanks for that, and thanks for Scott and the rest of the Posse gang for inviting us along. We sure had a good time, and well worth it. We had a lot of fun doing that. Well, he wants to talk a little bit about 3D printing, and we had some comments last episode, and he thinks one of the problems lies in the fact that IPMS leans heavily on build quality. And therefore, if much of the build difficulty is a little subjective, he says, is removed by less parts and presumably more accurate rendering, then you have to rely on the finish and dreaded weathering to start sizing things up. No longer is it easy to walk the table and say, well, that wing's not in alignment, that landing gear's out of alignment, etc. And it kind of puts a shift on the paradigm when it comes to judging. That's possibly true. This is an interesting point. And as much as we want to attract young people to the hobby, our predominant judger base right now is older IPMS. Not all of them. We've got some young blood in there, like Evan and some of the other guys who are running with the posse there. But it's how they've judged, how they're likely to always judge, unless they're something forces their hand to do things differently. And that's just where the 3D printing stands. That's interesting. But 3D printing. I guess we were talking about the multiple part kits, and I bought one of the Vargas Matilda ones while I was down there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. On some of these things, there's a fair amount of support structure cleanup. Now, as the printers get better, the attachment points get smaller. I don't know that the size really affects how many you need. It could possibly, but it's not easy to get away from them just by the nature of 3D printing. But some of them, that can still be quite a bit of work. So maybe that's a way they could start looking at these things.
And I'll be honest with you, I think part of it's just the novelty of it, the newness of it. Nobody complains about busts in the bust categories, which are we almost without exception, either single piece cast, resin cast, or at most single piece with one small something to attach to the bus. But it really is very analogous. It's a single piece that you've got to do some cleanup on and then paint. I just think that a big part of this is the newness of it. And 5 years ago, or 5 years from now, we're going to look back on it and we're going to be, well, what the heck was all the fuss about?
That may be true. We'll see. I think, with the bus, the paint and finish paradigm is kind of already there.
Yeah.
Just by the nature of the subject or the genre of the bus, the figure genre that it is. Not a lot of construction there, not a lot of cleanup most of the time. A lot of those things can be plug molded without hardly any separation lines. Good points, Matt. I don't know. Evan, you got any thoughts on this one?
No, Dave stole my thunder. He said exactly what I was going to say, so nothing from me.
That's because I can read your mind.
Well, as this gets more and more popular, I'm sure we'll have more and more mail about this. Actually, we have two. We got two that are dealing with 3D printing. One of them's really interesting. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me see. Yeah, we're going to get to it next. Ray LeGrant from Ware, Massachusetts. Now, last episode or the one before, I mentioned an email that he had written anonymous. I gave him some anonymity in my conversation about it on the podcast because it'd been a while. It was like 2021 because it was the Las Vegas National Convention when the big lunar lander won Best Space and Sci-Fi. Remember that?
Yep.
And he recognized that and was surprised that we remembered that. But I tell you, time gets away from me. But this one's kind of been come and gone from my thought, especially as 3D printing comes up again, and it's an email I've always harkened back to. He had stated that he thought, IPMS stood for International Plastic Modeler Society, and the emphasis on plastic, not resin printed. And he says, well, times have changed, and my opinion has somewhat shifted. So, hey, he's moved from his initial position apparently, which is good, I think. Watching plastic model channels on YouTube, listening to podcasts on the subject, it seems like 3D printing is here and here to stay. He's seen YouTube channels devoted to kit building now that builds entirely a 3D model made of entirely of 3D printed parts. And he's seen YouTube channels dedicated to building garage kits that now incorporating 3D prints in their kits. And he's seen podcasts dedicated to plastic model kits now incorporating 3D printed accessories and 3D kits in their formats or in their subject matter. It's interesting to see how IPMS deals with this and this onset of all this new stuff. So I guess we're kind of still waiting for that. As for 3D printing taking over the hobby, that was another concern he had. He doesn't think that's yet to be seen, but it is the future, and the future is now. Welcome to the dark side. Well, Ray, I'm glad to hear you've taken a little more harder look at that and kind of shifted on your position because I think you're right to do so. We all have our opinions on 3D printing versus, organic scratch building, and that's probably a subject we'll touch on in the future. And it's new. People don't know quite what to make of it, and there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is. But, I think probably the biggest one is that it's just a thing you print and paint. That's even that Vargas kit I have, it's got 30 some odd parts, which is not many for an armor kit, right?
Right.
It's got a fair amount of attachment point cleanup on it, on some really delicate stuff, and that's just a real pain in the rear, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I looked at that kit that you bought when we got back to our room, and I'll tell you what, there's no way you can't say that isn't modeling, both construction and painting and weathering when that's all done, because it's not like you just pull it out and pop it on your airbrush air booth and start painting away.
Well, when I'm gonna make a comment here, and Evan, I'd like to get your take on it at the end of it. I'm not sure much 3D print stuff. Well, you've used quite a bit, a lot of small stuff, but one thing I don't get, and it kind of runs counter to my own mindset and way of thinking about model building, is the Vargas kit it's really nice, and it's not many parts. A lot of things have been molded in place. I just don't think if I was making kits via 3D print that I would do it that way. While it might be, in a voluminous sense, more cleanup to make more of those parts as individual parts, more of those details as individual parts, I think when you're printing those individually, you can have a lot more control over where the attachments are. That's kind of the paradigm I would follow, not printing it all as one thing or as in few parts as possible. I'm not sure I get why that's done. Maybe somebody can enlighten me a little bit as why. I manage 3D printers at work. I certainly get the simplicity of doing it that way, but I'm not sure from a buildability standpoint. Well, I don't know. That's not even true. It doesn't have as many parts, so you could argue, yes, it's much more buildable because it has fewer parts or easy to build. I don't know. What do you think, Evan?
Well, when I saw I saw the model that you had in the hotel room there in the dojo, I guess one thing I noted was that the whole tool rack kind of assembly was printed as part of the hull. It was just printed on the sides of the hull, kind of below the turret, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, like you're saying, buildability, like this will probably be, I'm almost 99% sure, quicker to put together than some of those, very complicated kits you can have nowadays that are plastic injection molded. But when I go for the 3D printed accessories, not a full kit, but accessories, I'm looking for bits that I can use to increase the fidelity of the part of the model, and also to, I guess, like this, basically just I want to be able to modify it and have things like empty tool clamps or modify the lived-in look of the vehicle. And when you start printing things on, you're not achieving that. Now, of course, I'm talking about accessories that are aftermarket, and you're talking about a whole specific kit. But I think that perhaps it's just simply the novelty of having the ability to print it that way that is attractive, and at least for the person designing it. But personally, I would prefer those parts to be separate so that I have a little bit more customizability of the model. And like you said, also you have more control about putting the support structure in more reasonable places where it's not as visible when you're cleaning it up and such.
Sometimes I wonder, now this is not an accusation, but I wonder if it's being printed as one part or as few parts just for the sake of doing it that way. I don't know. Maybe it's even faster for them. I don't know.
Well, you two would know more than I, but is it easier to design it that way than to design out the separate parts? And maybe it's just simply a matter of Vargas is cranking out a lot of stuff and a lot of new stuff all very quickly. And I wonder if part of that is just it's easier to design it that way.
I think the design part, possibly indifferent. I mean, you still have to CAD up all the bogies and all that stuff. It's just a matter of making them one piece or not.
Yeah.
In the end, joining the parts together to make those things one part, joining if they're touching as opposed to separate parts. I don't know. I mean, that's the way he's doing it. I still bought the kit. It's a gorgeous little kit. I hope it goes together. What little there is to put on it is okay. It's maybe it's a really nice paint mule at this point, or a learning project.
Yeah.
Not in the disposable sense of a paint mule,
No,
but in
right.
the no dedicated hardcore build time in the thing,
Right.
in that sense. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get to it soon. I don't know. That's one I could kind of work on the side and on the sly. So maybe it'll just show up.
Well, I would love to see it because that's one of those, it's so ugly, it's cool.
And finally, from the email side of things, Mr. Michael Karnauka from New York City is looking forward to hearing our thoughts regarding the National Convention. And the question he has for us is, what is something that you only experience at the Nationals that you wish you'd encounter more often at other shows or modeling get-togethers? What is the least desirable experience at said event?
Well, the least...
Hang on. He hopes that we're not forced to wear wooden barrels propped up by improvised suspenders because we spent all our money.
I would say the least desirable aspect was when the SWAT team came into the dojo last year, but luckily we avoided that this year.
We did avoid that.
We did avoid that.
Well, Evan, what's something you think is you get more of at a model show that you get at the National Convention?
I think it would be, which is kind of maybe the same thing that you guys are going to say, but being able to meet with people and chat with them. And I think that differs from just being able to meet with your buddies at your local modeling club on Thursday night or whatever, because you have 4 days solid of just being able to meet with people, longer opportunities to chat with them. They might have more of their work on display, which you can use as an example to teach your friends about techniques you use and ask your buddies about how they achieve some result that you're interested in. And, I love the social aspect of the hobby, and the Nationals is just one huge social get together with all my modeling buddies, and I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Well, you said something, gosh, when was it? I think it was after your seminar. Or maybe, I don't remember when it was. I think that's when it was, but maybe, well, you had not experienced so many people knowing who you were by just visual recognition that you had never met before.
That is true. At the beginning of the presentation, I asked, and everyone was in the room and ready, I asked, how many people here know who I am and watch my videos? And most people in the room, and there was probably 100 or more people in that room, most people raised their hand, and it was quite amazing to me. And I mean, like I said at the time, to me, it doesn't really feel real because I'm just, I guess you guys get a little bit of this as well, but I'm just me. I just build models and I post about it on the internet. But these people, it's almost like they know who I am because they watch my content, they enjoy it, and they have some interaction with me, following my stuff and posting comments and everything. So it's almost like they already know me a little bit. So they start conversations with me, talking about some of my projects and everything. And it's a little bit shocking, but not in a bad way. It's just like, wow, I've had an impact on these people, and they're saying, I love this video you did, and I really like this model. And it feels really good that I've had a positive impact on the hobby, because when I first started out, there were modelers in my local club who had a very similar positive impact on me, and that really set me off on the right foot when I was starting the hobby.
Well, you sure knocked it out of the park with your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
You're welcome.
It was. Not only was it the best presentation I attended at San Marcos, this was, I think, my 27th national. And Evan, I mean this in all sincerity, your presentation was probably in the top 5 of any presentation I've seen put on at a nationals. It was extremely polished. You were very good at presenting and communicating the ideas that you were trying to communicate about the techniques you were using. It was really good.
Well, I'm glad that it was so good. I'm always worried that I'm not as eloquent as I would like to be when I'm explaining things, but
no, you did.
It was a really fun
well.
presentation, and I managed to film it successfully, and I've already started to edit it.
Good.
Clean up
All
a little
right.
bit, and I'll put the slides properly on the screen and everything. So that should be good to watch for people who missed it, basically.
That's what I was going to say. There were plenty of people who didn't get to go to the Nationals, and I think it would be well worth their time for you to be able to put that presentation up online and share it with those folks who weren't lucky enough to be there live.
Well, Dave, I'm going to let Evan stick with his SWAT team showing up as the least desirable experience. So what's your best and worst, Dave?
The worst was was 1,068 miles. Now, I had fun. We shared modeling camaraderie all the way down. I will tell you, having driven 11 and a half straight hours, by the time we got to that last hour or so, I was hurting. So I am thrilled that Madison is only 7 hours from us, and we're looking for a much better drive next year. But even that said, it was well worth the drive there and back. The best part is I would echo what Evan said regarding the getting to spend more time. The experience we had at Heritage Con was a really great experience. I mean, it was a huge show, huge vendors, lots of modelers we knew and could interact with. But because it was just a one-day show, you didn't have the time that you really wish you had. Whereas with 4 days, I mean, we went out to dinner and got to sit there and spend time with different modelers and share the experience. And it wasn't all talk of modeling, although there was plenty of that. We're sitting in the dojo one night, and we've got a bunch of modelers around, And what are we talking about? What band have you seen most in concert? What concert you saw that was the best, etc. And it was just a fantastic conversation, utterly unrelated to modeling, but nonetheless sharing camaraderie with other modelers. So reaching back to Evan's seminar, I would like to see at local contests, invitationals, and particularly regionals, more seminars. There used to be more seminars many years ago, and we've kind of gotten away from that. And I really, really do want to see that come back, at least to the regional level, but maybe even the local level.
Well, the local level, collectively, everybody's caved to the desire to be done by 3:00, which kind of, though, if you did it during the judging, that would probably be a time to
that's my
to have
thought.
a really good audience.
Yes, that to be honest with you is my thought. You have now, of course, the vendors want people in the vendor room to vend, but everybody's been there since 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. And the ability to grab lunch from a food truck on site or whatever, and then go into a conference room and see a presentation by somebody who has a particular skill base or knowledge base that makes it valuable for them to share. I do want to see that happen. I really do. Because, again, I've said this plenty of times. Seminars are the undiscovered gem of the Nationals. We attended, 5 or 6 of them this year, or at least I did, and they were great. So that's what I'd like to see more of.
Keep harping on this social aspect of it, and that's clearly what it is. I mean, the vendors are awesome, but there's vendors at all model shows to varying degrees. But there's a bunch of people we get to see only once a year, unless we're lucky. And I really like that going down. I don't know how you make that more available at local shows or the regional shows. I don't think you can. I think that's going to be a bit of positive that's going to be only associated with the national conventions, at least in the United States.
Unless we can talk more people into attending more shows. I know there are listeners out there who are listening who've never been to a show. Let me urge you to get to one. I can't tell you, we ran into a ton of listeners at the Nationals. And one of the questions I would always ask them was, is this your first Nationals? And quite a number of them, it was. The joy on their face, because they were having that experience, just that made me happy. And I really do think you don't have to enter. You don't have to go and enter to go to a show, but go to a show. And I can guarantee you, even if you don't know anybody at that show, okay, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a club, you model in your basement, you listen to the podcasts, and, maybe watch YouTube, and that's the extent of your modeling sphere. Find a show near you, go to it. Even, again, you will find people there that you will have an immediate connection with, even if you didn't know them before you showed up. And that is such an important part of the hobby.
Well, that's it for the email side of things, Dave. Has anything happened since we've been gone on Facebook Messenger?
No, nothing happened at all. There was nothing at all. I'm going to pick and choose a few because there were a ton of them, and a lot of them were about the show and just logistical stuff. But let me start off with our friend Stephen Lee, who I had a messenger exchange with today. It turns out Stephen was not able to attend the Nationals, but he did have an entry. He sent with TJ Haller his MAK to be entered as part of their Machine and Krieger group build. And so he sent it down, and it turns out that somehow in all the confusion, his model got left. Now, there's a happy end to the story, according to him, and I'm going to quote this directly. TJ lost my model on the way back, but Martin Drayton's cousin's bestie's mother-in-law's pool man managed to locate it, and it is now safe, but in Keokuk, Iowa, or somewhere like that. So there's a happy ending to the story, and I just love that.
I'm glad it worked out.
Yes, I am glad it worked out too.
I suspect TJ was mortified.
I suspect TJ was mortified. No sweat, TJ. Martin left a thing of his own models on the table, and believe it or not, that's easier to do than you would think it is in the rush to pack up, especially if you brought a large number of models. Yeah, I have deep sympathy for him, and I'm happy it both for Martin Drayton and for Stephen Lee that it worked out and their models are safe, and now they just have to figure out how to recover them. We ran into several of the guys from the Huntsville Model Club, and that's not Huntsville, Texas, where there's a prison. That's Huntsville, Alabama. And they are having their show, their invitational show, and it's celebrating the 50th anniversary of their club on August 26th, so just in a couple of weeks. They stopped by and asked us to mention the show, and I wanted to mention the show. I've been to Huntsville numerous times. I love where it's held. I love the contest. I really like the vendors there that tend to skew toward guys getting rid of collections and such, so you can pick up some real deals. I would urge anyone, August 26th, if you're anywhere near Huntsville, Alabama, not Huntsville, Texas, Huntsville, Alabama, go to that show. You won't be disappointed.
Anything else?
Let's see. Charles Rice, one of our listeners, who is a over-the-road trucker, pointed out that my 11 and a half hours straight driving violated by over 30 minutes what the OSHA rules are for truck drivers transporting cargo for the amount of time they're allowed to drive. And that's absolutely true. But the cargo I was carrying was a couple of modelers, so I think it's exempt from OSHA regulation.
Our expired temporary plate wasn't.
Yo, we got so lucky. We got so lucky. Let's see. Bob Smith reached out to us, suggested, as you well know, there was at the show a really large-scale model of a Saturn V. And by large scale, I have no idea what the scale of this thing was, but it's not like the 196 scale kits. This was scratch built. And listener Bob Smith suggested he would love to hear from the person who actually built that. And
I think he did a seminar. I didn't get to that one, but
no, was he part of the Real Space seminar?
There was a Saturn specific seminar.
Oh, okay. Maybe so.
And I think it was in relation to the building of that model.
Okay.
So good idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea. And Joe Hegedus wrote in and suggested a topic for a future episode, which is why a modeler should join the IPMS national organization. You know, I pitch it every episode, and he wants a deeper dive into actually the why, the what benefits are there for the modeler, what benefits are there for the modeling community, etc. And that's a really good suggestion, and we may have to do that for a future episode. I think that would be a real good idea. And that's it from the Facebook DM side. Well, this is the point in the episode where I ask, when you get done listening, if you would please rate this podcast on whatever podcast listening app you're using, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, etc., whatever. I know we've gotten tons and tons of really good reviews on Apple Podcasts, and we appreciate that. It really helps to drive our visibility. Also, if you are listening and you know a modeling friend who doesn't listen to our podcasts or podcasts generally, I would ask you to turn them on to us, help them download a podcasting app if you need to. Some of our older members are a little bit adverse to new technology. If you'd reach out and help them and get them listening, we'd appreciate it. The best way for our podcast to continue to grow, and it is continuing to grow, is for members to, or listeners to, recommend to other modelers that they start listening.
In addition to that, please check out the other podcasts out in the model sphere. You can go to www.modelpodcast.com. It's Model Podcast plural. It's a consortium website set up with the help of Stuart Clark at the Scale Model Podcast in Canada, where he's aggregated all the banners for the other podcasts who are participating in the spirit of cross-promotion. So give modelpodcast.com a visit, where you can find the banner links to all these other podcasts, and go have a listen. We'd also like you to check out our blog and YouTube friends out there in the model sphere. We just mentioned Stephen Lee, Sprue Pie with Frets. Check out his long and short form blogs. I'm sure he'll have something about his little lost model incident. We've got the InShot guy, Jeff Groves, all things 72nd scale. If you're into 72nd scale, you want to go check out what Jeff's got going on, and hopefully we'll see him soon. Chris Wallace, a model airplane maker. Great YouTube channel and blog. Check it out. He keeps getting better and better with his videos, and his blog content's always good and gets people thinking and on their toes. And Jim Bates, Scale Canadian TV, YouTube channel. I'm curious what he's going to have to say about the Nationals. We enjoyed hanging out with Jim quite a bit over the last week.
Yep.
And Evan McCallum, Panzermeister 36. So I guess your NAT seminar going public is going to be your big next thing, huh?
Yes, I hope to have it up Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, like I usually do. So that should be right after this episode drops.
Let me suggest to you that having seen Evan's Panhard in person, the photographs, while really fantastic, that go with his seminar, are great. The model is even more impressive in person. I really, really enjoyed looking at that thing.
Well, thank you.
Well, finally, this is a point where I'd ask, if you're not a member of IPMS USA, IPMS Canada, your national IPMS organization, please consider joining. IPMS does do many things for the modeling community. Many of those are not readily visible to the modeling community at large, and so they're not always appreciated, but they are vital. And I'd ask you to join. In addition, if you're an armor modeler, consider joining AMPS. Their national contest next year is in South Bend, Indiana, and it's actually the show chairman is a good friend of Mike and myself, John Charvat. We're hoping to have him on a future episode. And AMPS is a good organization.
All right, Dave, let's have a word from our sponsor. Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com. Well, Dave, other than Evan, we had some other precious cargo in the van on the way to the National Convention. We transported a couple of Kinetic F-16 models that were going to be used on Kinetic's display table.
Yes, arguably more precious cargo. Kinetic, for the IPMS Nationals in San Marcos, released a boxing of their F-16 kit with the special markings that the Texas Air National Guard put on one of their F-16s. Club member Jeremy Boyd is actually a pilot, and he is actually with the Air National Guard unit in Texas. He is the one who designed those markings. So he and another club member each built 2 different versions of the Texas Air National Guard special markings for the F-16, which are available in the kinetic kit. And then they entrusted us to take the models down to the Nationals and to have them displayed at the kinetic table along with Kinetic's marketing for selling the kits that they were selling. So it was really fantastic. It was nerve-wracking. I hate transporting other people's models. I'm much more worried about that than I am transporting my own models. But it worked out, and it was great, and it gave us an introduction to Kinetic President and CEO Raymond Chung. It was really great.
Well, we got a segment with Raymond, and let's have a listen. Well, Dave, we had a couple of F-16s to bring down to the Nats this year and deliver to Kinetic models.
Yeah.
And we have a Kinetic representative with us right now. So would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Raymond Chung, and I'm the CEO of the Kinetic model. And, this is the fourth time that we come here. And finally, we squeeze out the time to get to the podcast.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And, one of the jets we did bring, one of the F-16s, was a decal option in one of your special boxings of the kit.
Yeah, okay. The Texas ANG.
Oh, so a good one for this show.
Yes, we have this idea last year when we finished the show at Omaha.
Yes.
That we think about what we should bring to, promote the brand next year.
Okay.
So we come up with the idea, next year is a Texas, so why don't we make a Texas jet?
Sound like a good idea.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Where's Kinetic located?
No, Kinetic is originated from Hong Kong, but that as most of the, the manufacturing is made in China.
Yes.
But now by 2023, we have 4 offices in the world.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a direct branch in North America, in USA, in Canada, in Australia, and also UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
And still, is it primarily in Hong Kong?
Basically, we are running in the global supply chain.
Okay.
So I would say that most of the product is now manufactured globally.
Okay.
For example,
Understand.
the tooling is made in China. The design is worldwide basis consortium. And the deco by Carrera from Italy.
Yes.
Okay, so I cannot say that. Where is it made?
It's made several places.
It's made everywhere.
Well, that's interesting.
It's made everywhere. Just like every product in the world that you cannot say where it is made, assembling in China.
Sure. Yes. Sure. Well, in one of my prior careers, I was working in consumer products, and I was in southern China and Hong Kong quite a bit.
Yeah.
Are you guys active in the hobby scene in Hong Kong?
Not really, because the domestic market in Hong Kong is quite small.
Okay, really?
So,
okay.
but we've founded in Hong Kong, and so now our focus is on our overseas office in the world.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And fairly new company, several years now, but
I would say that we are newbies in this industry.
Okay.
We are 14 years old only. While most of the brand established big brand is talking about half a century.
yes.
So we're still a young company in that perspective.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
And primarily, what subjects typically does Kinetic focus on?
We tried something at the very beginning, but now in the last decade that we're focusing on jets.
Okay.
In 48.
All right.
Okay, because we don't have much resources to diversify into different kind of things.
Sure.
So we better to focusing our resource in one spectrum
Sure.
to make it back first before we move to the others.
All right. So, but there are a few 135th scale military subjects under the Kinetic banner?
That is earlier Invader.
Okay.
Okay, back in 10 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Understand.
Yeah, and we stopped the 35th scale for some years. Okay, and because too much competition from mainland.
Yes.
Okay, so we better to focusing resources into the jet plane.
Big
Okay.
explosion in new manufacturers in the last Oh, how long? 10 years?
Almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years.
Okay.
So this is the Chinese just repeat the cycle. What I anticipated back in, maybe 1960 in Japan.
Really?
Okay. But the thing is now everything is faster. So basically, I guess that they do all the things happen in Japan for 30 years into 10 years. Yeah. And also have a different kind of development concepts. Okay.
Yes.
Some brand go for the super detail.
Right.
Okay. And Kinetic focusing on the simplicity.
Okay.
And buildability.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's been well received, I think.
Well, this is a great dilemma, okay, especially in the mainland, okay, because the customer in mainland wants super detail.
Okay.
So you see all kinds of full interior tank,
Yes.
model planes with engine inside. But my concept is, okay, at the very fundamental question, what is the purpose of our business? What we provide to the consumer? Okay.
Okay.
So at Kinetic, we have a concept or theory. Actually, we are doing a painting board.
Right.
So model kit modeling is like a oil painting.
Okay.
So what we are doing is provide a three-dimensional painting board
Yes.
for the consumer to repeatedly paint.
That's
So that is the whole concept. Okay.
that's interesting because the hobby across, I think, all subjects
Yeah.
has shifted. There are super detailing.
Yeah.
But the focus seems to be more on paint and finish for a lot of modelers these days.
Yes, because the painting process it's just like oil painting. You express your impression of what it's going to be.
Yes.
Okay. So so in order to achieve that target, that we have to make the kit simplified enough.
Right.
But at the same time, maintain a better detail. So the difficult job is to try to classify what should be included or what should be excluded. So what we call the smart elimination.
Yes.
Okay.
Understand. It's-
Yeah. So and also a lot of things to balance at the same time. The production costs, the design, the consumer building experience, and also we have a supply chain to feed.
Yes.
Okay. So otherwise that will be too expensive to buy, or maybe to repetitively building it.
Okay.
Are you experiencing a push in your raw material costs that is going to affect your pricing? Are you seeing the price of styrene or the styrene precursors pushing up in cost, and is that going to end up affecting what you price your items at down the line?
We faced this problem in the last 14 years.
Always going up.
Always
Okay.
going up.
I can say that when we start the Kinetic in 2009, the production cost is ramping up by 300%.
Wow.
Okay,
Since
it's already three times.
2009.
2009. Okay.
Yeah.
And now is the production cost is rising 300% or 350.
Wow.
already.
So
Okay.
it has to affect things.
Yes, because you think about it.
Right.
But fortunately, that we manage a business model which can overcome not the cost, it's actually the revenue distribution structure, so that we may have a different distributions policy with other brands in the world. Okay.
Yes.
So that we can maintain the final end consumer price.
Cool.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know a lot of industries had supply chain issues during COVID.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Me too.
How's the situation now for raw materials, value-add materials like your printed boxes and decals and things like
everything
that?
increased by
Everything's-
at least, I think, 30% to 50% in the past 3 years.
And how did it affect your lead times on deliverabilities for product in the various markets?
Well, the lead time is not so serious because we are not a big big manufacturer.
Okay.
We're not talking about the 100 container coming in. Okay.
Okay.
So that's fine. The lead time is okay.
Okay.
But the core is where we should go. Where we should go. So because I always have a knowledge about this business. In a hobby business,
Yes.
it's like we are a fisherman.
Okay.
Yes,
I understand
we are a
that.
fisherman.
That's a good
So we are
analogy.
fishermen. Every time we make a tool, it's equivalent that we are going for a tour to the sea.
Yes.
So we want to catch the fish, right?
Okay.
So the business is like this. We have to control the rhythm. Not too fast,
Okay.
not too slow. So just like you go to the sea and you find some fish, and you get the fish is very, and you get the result, but don't go back too fast.
Okay.
You will exhaust all the fish.
Well, if you can tell us anything, what's coming from Kinetic in the near future, or even vision out? What do you hope to do with the company?
Everyone is asking. As planned that we are going to release the Tutor CT114 for the Canada market.
Yes.
And the result is phenomenal, which is exceeding what you can expect.
We know some people will be very happy about
Yes.
this.
I know a lot of Canadians who want multiple copies of that kit.
Yes, and even the PAO office of Canadian Air Force contact us.
Oh wow.
Okay, and they want the tutor to be located in all museum
Okay.
in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, so that will be many people think that this is a rare and niche item. Okay,
But not in
And,
Canada.
Canada is a super hot item,
Yes.
but it helps to establishing more channel
Yes.
to Canada market.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is good things, and people talking about to putting on sale on the tutor when there's an air show.
Yes. Well, Raymond, thank you for stopping by and having a little chat with us.
Okay.
We
Thank you very much.
appreciate
Nice
it.
to meet you. Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Hopefully, I'll make it over to Hong Kong again. I haven't been over there in a
Okay.
long time. There's
No
a couple
problem.
of hobby shops I like to hit in Kowloon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You take care.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Bye bye. Well, he wasn't the only president and CEO we ran into, Dave.
I know. I'm telling you, we are getting interviews with the movers and shakers of the modeling scene, and this next interview was one that I was particularly thrilled with.
Lightspeed Global was at the IPMS National Convention, and there's some nice stuff on display. And Lightspeed Global is also the sponsor of the Moosearoo Cup, which we happened to get those kits in the mail in the week prior to the national convention, which we opened ours live on the road. And I know as the time zones rolled out, the others in Australia and in the UK opened theirs a little early. But it's a Ural, 4320 truck
Yes.
in 1/72nd scale. So we got a little more leeway on what we can do with it. But we wanted to thank Lightspeed Global personally. So we got their CEO, Lester Lai, over at the table to have a few brief words with us and see what's going on at Lightspeed Global. Well, Dave, our new friends, I guess, at Lightspeed Global are down here at the IPMS National Convention. And we have the president and CEO. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what you are?
That's me.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Lester, and I'm the president of Lightspeed Global.
And I walked by his table numerous times. I was expecting someone much older than you, which is, I
I'm old, but I
apologize.
just kind of look young. I think it's the Asian blood.
I don't know. I don't know. I was surprised, but it's
How long has Lightspeed Global been operating?
We've been around since 2016. I mean, we're pretty young, in the model distribution
yeah.
industry. So, but I think we're doing pretty good, pretty okay. I mean,
Well, that's cool.
for such a short time.
Well, the reason I want to speak to you, I want to thank you and your company on behalf of all the scale model podcasts that are out there in the model universe right now. You've helped supply kits to a little inner podcast challenge we have called the Moosearoo Cup.
Right.
And you've made donations now. I think this is the third year you've done this
Yes.
for us. And we all enjoy it. It's been coordinated through the IPMS Hamilton Club in Hamilton, Ontario, which I think is on the opposite end of the country than you.
No, not too far from us.
Oh, really?
Just
I was thinking you guys were
like
out
20 minutes from my warehouse.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They're good friends of ours. We support them quite a bit.
Okay, I was thinking you guys were on the west side. My geography is horrible, apparently.
Yeah. no, we're right by the airport in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
That's
So that's not far at all. Okay.
No, it's not too far.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you guys go down to the show and the Hamilton show?
We went to Heritage Con last year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We went up for. We have a lot of really good friends since we started the podcast that just happened to be in Ottawa.
Okay.
And we came down. They all met us in Hamilton. We stayed at an Airbnb, a big house there, and just
Nice.
commuted back and forth between the show.
Yeah, it was
and-
one of the biggest shows they had in a while.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
like over 2,000 people showed up.
Yeah, at one point the fire marshal actually closed the building and said you can't let any more
Yeah.
people in
Yep.
because it was so well attended.
Yeah, a lot of people were surprised by that because it never happened before. But
Never.
It was good. I hope it continues.
Yes, I
mean,
do
like,
too.
Those guys do a great job.
Now,
right.
what is your distribution range? Where do you distribute just in Canada and the U.S., or do you distribute in North and South America? What's your all's range?
So we have, mostly in North America.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
Our business is like 50-50. I mean, like we have a lot of customers in the U.S. from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Okay.
And also in Canada.
Sure.
We have like a satellite warehouse up in Niagara Falls, so that ships out to all our customers in the
Okay.
US. Yeah.
That's convenient.
Yeah, it is good. I mean, like we love attending shows, and we're at every IPMS.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Now you've got a 48 scale F4U Corsair coming.
Yeah.
People are excited about
Oh
it.
yeah, that's been surprisingly very popular. I mean, everyone that walks by that booth has been like talking to us about it. It's a new kit from Magic Factory.
Right.
Yes.
They're a fairly new company. Yeah.
That's the first kit I've seen them come out with. Maybe there's others, but when I
Yeah.
see the big Corsair, that
Yeah, they came out with a few different ones, like the Iron Dome.
Right.
And some figurines, but this Corsair, I think it's going to be a really nice kit. It's got two Corsairs in the kit,
okay.
and if I'm not wrong, it retails for like about $110 or so
Okay.
For two
for
airplanes.
2 airplanes.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
that's a
pretty,
good deal for 48 scale detailed kits.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, so the ones that we have right now at the show they're test shots.
Right.
But I know the team is working really hard on that right now to fix some of the issues that they have on certain sprues. But I feel like there could be a slight delay in the release.
Sure.
But I think they want to get it perfect. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, because this is an update from the Tamiya kit.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And I think everyone's looking forward to it. So yeah, I think it'll be big. It'll be big.
I
Like
think-
everyone's looking at this.
I took a lot of really close pictures and sent it to one of our friends in Ottawa because he's
Oh,
a
yeah?
Corsair.
Who is
Cor-
that? Oh, is it a store? Or?
Chris Wallace.
Wallace. He runs
Okay.
a blog called Model Airplane Maker.
Okay.
And he's just a Corsair junkie.
Okay.
And he was very impressed. In fact, he asked us to steal the test shot off your
to steal
your
the test
table.
shot?
We declined. It's
Yeah, right.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lester, again, on behalf of all the podcasts out there, thank you for the donations to Mooseroot Cup. We really appreciate it.
No problem. I always wanted to support you guys, man.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, we are down to the nitty gritty now, and I'm sure this is what most folks may be curious about. Hopefully, they enjoyed the interviews. But what broke your wallet? I stole
Oh,
your
boy.
thunder, Dave.
Evan, what broke your wallet?
Actually, my wallet was not broken. I didn't spend my entire budget at the show.
It's because you had an astronomical budget.
Yeah, all those big YouTube bucks. Yeah,
Both you and Mike are embarrassing me. So, what did you buy?
I bought. I still bought like 6 kits, but I got some really really good deals on some of them. Actually, I didn't buy 6 kits. I bought 5, and I was very graciously given a kit by someone who won it in a raffle and didn't want it. So I didn't get the guy's name. I don't know if he knew me from my YouTube channel, but some guy just walked up to me and said, "Hey, do you build armor?" I'm like, "Yes." Take this kit. I won it in the raffle, and it's the Dragon Panzer 1 in the North Africa scheme, which is actually one of the models I had on display at this show. It's always a vehicle that I'm interested in. I really love the early version of the Panzer 1 because it's so dinky, and I love 1930s tankettes because they're all asymmetrical and funky. So that's something I will definitely build in the future. Probably do it in the early war tricolor scheme in the German use, but I got a bunch of other dragon kits, Sturmpanzer, man, I'm already forgetting, a Russian T90 and everything, and most importantly, I got that resin razor saw that you guys were recommending I buy, so that'll definitely help me in my forays into more fancy resin conversions on my kits in the future.
Just to be clear, the JLC saw is not made of resin. It's really good for cutting resin.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Well, you know, it clearly pays off to be young and cute and an internet celebrity, or YouTube celebrity, because clearly that's why that guy handed you that kit.
Yeah, I got a couple other deals as well. People saying, they'll give me a bit of a deal because I'm a younger modeler, and they see the benefit in helping the younger modelers carry on the hobby, which is always really appreciated. Maybe I look like I'm 15 years old sometimes, so that might help.
Hey, don't knock it, man. I had that same thing go until I was like 30.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the vendors at the show. There were some really good deals to be had, and I picked up a few things I was looking for.
And not only that, it was great to talk to them, because we got to talk to the Lazy Dog guys, Bases by Bill guys, several other of the vendors, and they're really fun to talk to.
What about you, Dave? What'd you get?
Unlike you, I did actually spend some money at the Nationals. I ended up, well, first of all, Ben Pluth, a friend of the podcast, a longtime friend of Skippy and I, who lives up in Ohio, wasn't able to go to the Nationals, but he was anxious to get the 48 scale FM2 kit that Edward was releasing at the show. And so he asked me if I would pick a couple up for him, which I did. So I got those for him. But for me, I got Edward S199 and an Edward 109 F4, both in 72nd scale, both Barry Numeric approved. And so I was very comfortable purchasing those. And then, as we all, I think, noted, Squadron is back. The guys who bought the Squadron name and the Squadron IP that's now apparently based out of Georgia, they had an entire room set up like kind of a Squadron warehouse and had tons of really good kits. I spent some significant money with them on the Tamiya F-35 and a couple of IBG double kits, including the Focke-Wulf 190 D9 and D11 from JV44. They were having a little trouble IT-wise that slowed down their checkout process, but they are great guys. And, I'm really happy to see the Squadron name end up in the hands of people who clearly are intent on bringing it back as a name in the hobby, because Mike, you and I, when we were growing up, the Squadron Signal Flyer was something that you looked forward to every month, and you went through it looking for the super special deals, trying to get it ordered before they ran out. It was a whole lot of a part of our modeling life, and it's really good to see that in the hands of people who clearly care about that. So, Mike, you spent an embarrassingly small amount of money, and I'm almost afraid to be associated with you, but tell the folks what little money you did spend and what you bought, because at least one of your purchases to me was just kind of great.
I'm curious which one that was.
You know which one that was.
Well, I've already mentioned it. The biggest thing I purchased was the Matilda one from Vargas Models, the 3D printed kit of that pre-war, early war British tank, the first version of the Matilda. Nice little kit. I'm anxious to see how that's going to go together, and hopefully there's no Easter eggs in there that I'm going to regret my purchase, but I think it's going to be okay. The other thing I got from Squadron was I got an SBD3 Dauntless from Skyhawk, a kit I've been rubbing and wanting for a while. So I finally picked that one up at the show. I haven't seen it too many other shows, but I was
You're-
glad to
you're-
pick it up.
You're a 72nd scale aircraft modeler now.
Or collector, anyway. And the only other thing I picked up, Dave, I picked up a 1979 Airfix catalog.
This is the one that I just absolutely love. Rare Plane Detective had a bunch of these old catalogs, and the nostalgia involved in leafing through the old Airfix catalog, it was just kind of awesome. I was proud of you for shelling out the money that you shelled out to actually buy that thing.
Nah, it was $12. That wasn't too bad.
No.
It's cheaper than Matilda 1.
Yes, it was. Yeah. and you got to admit, leafing through that thing brought back all sorts, because this catalog still had, it wasn't before the Federal Trade Commission forced model companies to stop putting illustrations on their box tops, and they all used really good illustrators to do their box
Sure.
tops.
Yep.
And so this catalog has all of those great Airfix illustrations that we all remember.
Well, there's a book out there, too, of I can't remember the guy's name, but who did most of the Airfix box art.
Roy Grinnell.
I think it's Roy, but I don't think it's Grinnell.
I'm pretty sure. Well, we'll check. We'll fact check that and
But I don't know how much is actually in that book. As far as, is it all in there? Possibly. I don't know.
I think it's every illustration that he did.
Well, that's probably worth picking up. But anyway, for $12, I got this catalog, and there was a Matchbox one too that I'd like to have had, but typically the Matchbox catalogs from there, I was picking those up as a kid, were mostly photograph based, so it wasn't too exciting. So I left it.
Jim Bates has that Airfix book, so we'll have to talk to him about it, because he can tell us who the person is and what the book is like, because I know he bought that.
Well, let's hear from our friends at Bases by Bill.
Getting the right sized base for your model, diorama, or vignette can be difficult and time consuming. Bases by Bill has the solution with their all new custom sized display bases. Offering sizes of 4 to 30 inches, you choose the dimensions you want and get the size you need every time. And they can laser engrave the base with a unit emblem or text, all to your specifications. Better still, shipping is included within the lower U.S. 48 states. Built by modelers for modelers, Bases by Bill has bases and display cases for any type of model and for any size. Visit their website at basesbybill.com to see their products or to get your own custom-built base or display case quote. Use the code MOJO at checkout to apply a 15% listener discount to your order. That code again is MOJO for 15% off. Bases by Bill for all your model display needs.
Well, when I dropped the 12-minute model sphere, which we recorded on the road, the artwork for that was a spoof of album cover from a band called the Counting Crows, and the album title was August and Everything After. Well, my spoof was August and Everything Awesome. And in keeping with that, at the show, when we trying to decide who we want to talk to at the show, we're always looking for something awesome, either on a build table or a particular vendor or whatever. And I think if folks have been paying attention to the models at the show that are being posted to Facebook and other areas of the internet, they noticed a group build that was put together by the friends of a deceased modeler, where they had completed his half-started models. And it was a really awesome thing. And when we saw this, we just really wanted to find these guys and to tell their story. And it took me a while to track them down. I can flip up the entry sheet and get a name. I was having a hard time finding somebody that knew them outright, because it's a big show, right? There's hundreds of people there. And finally, I just put a Mojo sticker down and a little note addressed to the entrant, and told them to come by the table. And eventually they did, and I'm so glad they did. So, Dave, this is our interview with the gentleman who put together the Face Davis group build, Mr. Steve Collins and George Hitchens. and just a really, really awesome story. So let's let those guys tell their story. Well, Dave, this is going to be our last session of the day of the show. When we first got here, we were going around and trying to find things. Typically, we try to find builds we really like or things that are just cool for whatever reason. We were back in the group build section, group entries, and we noticed a tribute build where a bunch of guys had finished off some half starts and fits from a fellow model who had passed away. And we have a couple of gentlemen with us here who were part of that. Guys, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
My name's Steve Collins.
My name's George Hitchens,
Where are you all from?
I'm from Phoenix.
and I'm from Noonan, Georgia.
Okay, well, that's a long way away.
Well, our travels with Craig took us quite a ways, and he brought a lot of people from a lot of different areas. I had met Craig when we were in the Air Force in Alexandria, Louisiana. We were flying A-10s, and so about 35 years ago, about 1987. And through Craig, I met Steve and everybody else and all the Phoenix crew. And so we've all traveled all over the place. And as we were talking about how Craig had initiated so much adventures through the things that we had done through him, that he had a friend named Roger that when they were in ROTC in college, Roger had a model contest because he was lazy. And because of his laziness, he decided to do something easy. He had a model contest. That's where he met Craig. Their friendship, so on and so on, leads to one person, leads to another.
Okay.
And so now we all know each other, and we've been doing this for decades.
Steve, what's your side of it? Well, let's back up one thing. Let's talk about what the build is and who it was. Why don't you give us that information?
The build is, Craig saw a lot of squirrels in his life. He would start a model, and then he would see something new, and he would put this model back in the box, slide it to the side, and go buy the new one.
There's a full name?
Craig Davis.
Craig Davis. And he had a nickname?
Face.
Craig Face Davis.
Yeah, and everybody thinks that his call sign was from like the A-Team.
Okay.
Because you kind of looked like the guy, and he acted a lot like the guy, and he could talk you out of your shorts. But it's actually because his brother, and his dad would all make the same face, the one that's on the picture back there in the back, and that's how the call sign came from. But he'd start a model, and he'd either run into a bump and put it in the box and put it aside, or he would see a new thing and put it aside. We would gather.
I've never heard of a modeler doing that.
Oh, never!
Before.
It was a shock to me, a shock to my system. And like we would get together at one of the local shops on the weekend to build, and he would be doing something, and he'd go, "Well, new kit Saturday," and off he'd go and come back with a new model and start it. So when we went to gather his estate, his 70% of his models were started.
Oh, wow.
And
When did he pass?
he passed September 8th last year.
Okay, September 8th of last year.
And we went
And how old?
61 years old. We went over to in October to gather it up, and it took us 4 days. He had a 2,700 square foot house, and he had models in every room of the house in various states of work, except the kitchen, the bathrooms, and the master bedroom. The master bedroom had books in it, and it took us 4 days to clean it out.
Wow. So he's also an A-10 pilot?
He was an A-10 pilot. We flew A-10s together, and there wasn't a whole lot to do in Louisiana. So we're going to the local model club at the hobby shop. We go to meetings up in Bossier, Louisiana, or Shreveport, or anywhere that we could find, because there wasn't much. So going over to Craig's house, he would have all these unbuilt models, and I would look at him, and I thought he did such a great job, and I would be just admiring it. He's like, "I'm bored. It's yours." What? Real for reals? And he would
Most
just give
generous
me
guy
his
I've ever
stuff.
known.
So I would build a lot of his things, and over the years, he would come to my house, look at my collection. He goes, "Well, that's mine. That's mine. That's mine. That's mine." And the genesis of this, and what really led to this, and I'm not trying to take credit for it, but when a very, very dear friend of mine passed away, Brady Hales, in 2012, and his son had given me a partially completed kit of a B-24 148 scale monogram that had been started. And I loved Brady like a brother, and as I loved Craig like a brother that I'd never had. And so what I decided I wanted to do is like, I want to finish this for Brady, but not in my style. This is not my project. I'm finishing this for Brady. So he liked nose art and he liked camouflage. So I camouflaged it. I found nose art. I put his name under the canopy rail. And as I'm doing it, it became very emotionally satisfying to do something as a tribute and as a remembrance to my friend. And it's now one of my favorite pieces in the collection.
That's nice. What's your take, Steve?
One thing, we wanted to see something that Craig's finished. which is, that's not really true. He had display cases all over his house full of stuff, and he did great work. He was a backward modeler with armor. You know, most guys build the hull, build the top, build the turret, build the gun, do the gun, then go, oh, damn, here it comes, and they have to do the road wheels and the track. He started with the road wheels and the track. We'd take road trips, guy trips, you know, to California or wherever, and he would spend the entire time sitting in his seat with a box in his lap and a sanding stick and sand road wheels the entire trip. And then when he'd get back home, he'd do the tracks for that one.
Okay.
So when we pulled these things out, it was a matter of, oh, look, that's done. That's done.
Yucky part's done.
Yeah. And then he had a fascination for group builds for some reason, which seemed the perfect avenue for us to take, make it a group build, and finish some of his projects.
But part of that, too, was I know I had gotten so much personal satisfaction from finishing Brady's B-24 that I suggested to the guys who they're talking about, oh, my God, he's got so many unbuilt kits. I said, guys, trust me on this one. Take a kit, build it, finish it for him. It will mean a lot to you. You'll have a connectivity, you know, to his DNA, to yours, and it'll be something that will have deep meaning to you. So I started that idea, but then these guys ran with the idea of turning it into a group build, and then our dear friend Bill Dunkel decided to make this challenge coin, which we had in the Air Force, with sayings that related to Craig, things that he did. So for us, this was part of it. This was our tribute at this show because he's been such a big part of our lives with him.
Yeah.
To go to shows, go to contests. And so this is our last contest with him. And to put his things in there.
It's interesting because I just to divert a little bit to group builds in general. We don't participate well in group builds because it's usually a topic we don't have a real high vested interest in, and it just seems like a drag by the time you get halfway into it. But with a guy that had that much started stuff, and we've seen the display, and we'll put some more pictures of it up on our Facebook and stuff. Somebody got to go in there and pick something they probably would have liked to build.
Yeah, and we spread it around to the people who knew Craig.
Okay.
And we initially were going to keep it, you know, kind of close held to people who were good friends with Craig, because everybody knew Craig in our area. But we also talked about it with some other friends, some AMPS guys, and they went, we would have loved to participate. They did. I think 4 of the models that we have in there are from the AMPS guys.
Okay.
And everybody, you know, how, with most group builds, you get 30 guys who say, yeah, I'll do it.
10
and
finish,
you get
or
10
5.
finish them. Yeah, if you're lucky, you get 10 to finish. 11 guys said, yes, we will. Or 12 guys said, yes, we will. We had 11 finishers.
Okay.
So how many total kits were finished?
Ooh, I'd have to go in there and count. Honestly, I don't know.
thought it was close to 30.
It's
It's fairly close.
So you had
30.
people building more than one.
I built 3.
Okay, that explains
George
that.
I built 2.
2.
And there are other multiples. along
Everybody,
the way?
just about everybody built at least 2.
All right.
Yeah.
But of the 2 I built, they had a 20-year history. They sat on his kitchen table in Peoria. One was a big T-34 tank that the interior is spectacular, and unfortunately I couldn't leave the top off. And so I would ask him all the time, how's the T-34 going? Because, my God, it's so beautiful. And he just got bored.
I haven't worked on it in a while.
I haven't worked on it, and it would just drift away. So when this time came, like, I have to have that back. I have got to finish this because 2 decades we've talked about it. And same thing with the Forgotten Prisoner. He had painted up the back wall and done a beautiful job. The weathering on what the guy's wearing is just phenomenal. But he just let it go. I was like, I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to finish it for you. And so it's got a 20 plus year history for it. And so everybody stepped up as Steve said.
I think everybody who built something, except maybe for the Amps guys, who, like I said, weren't close friends with Craig, have a connection with the models they chose. He and I had talked about doing a group. He and I just doing a group build of
buddy build.
Yeah, BF 110s and entering it to nationals. That was the squadron he and I were going to do. So that's the reason I painted that one.
Okay.
The 72nd scale Jagdpanzer 4 that's in there in Syrian markings. He's the one that showed me the picture that prompted that the fact that the Syrians in 1948 had Jagdpanzer 4s.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And the T-55 Egyptian one, I found him a picture of one in that paint scheme. So there's a connection there. And virtually all of them, except for a couple, were tied to either conversations with Craig about the subject or an agreement with Craig, hey, we'll both build these, which he would start and not finish.
I have great sympathy.
And the fun thing with Craig was it was one mood all the time. As we were talking about it, he was like everybody's little brother. Even though he's 60 years old, we all loved him.
Yeah.
Sometimes he was that pain in the butt little brother, but we're all that way.
But grown guys were, very emotional about this because everybody felt the connection to him.
That's cool.
Because he was that friend. He was your go-to guy. He's going to be the same guy. You know what you get. And wherever you're going to go, you're going to have a good time.
Do you have any particular plan with what you are going to do with this collection now that once the show's over? I mean, is there any...
They're going back to the guys who finished it.
Oh, okay. Each one will go back to the
connection, right? So I've got the T-34, the Forgotten Prisoner, long history with it. The one that was really tough, I couldn't look at it every day. The one that our friend Bill Dunkel did with the figure that Craig had painted, but had it on a different base, and then Bill had it with him looking at the cemetery with the headstone.
Heavy one.
It's going to his good longtime friend since high school. He's going to be the man who is going to be able to be the curator of that piece. And so they're all going to good homes. They're not going to be for sale at any price. This is all going to be our remembrance.
Was there anything else you'd like to say about the man?
Thank you for letting us tell his story a little bit.
Yeah.
He was loved by the people he knew. He served his country as not only an NA-10 pilot, but as an F-16 instructor at Holloman. They had a great service for him. And so everybody who knew him, that picture that's in the other room, that's him. And so people know him, remember him, and remembering him is the big thing. As long as he's remembered, he's not forgotten.
That's true. Yeah. Well, we just thought it was a beautiful tribute, and we knew as soon as we saw it that we want to get these guys on and tell this story because
that's very kind of you.
It's phenomenal. And you guys are clearly close friends right here in front of us, but your friendship to this man seems like it's mountainous.
It's a nice cap to a long friendship.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you for
the opportunity.
The story.
Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank George and Steve for identifying themselves and coming by the table and sitting down with us for a few minutes there and telling us that story.
I cannot tell you how moving that interview was. I can think of no better tribute from my modeling friends than when you pass, having them come in to help clean up and dispose of everything, and taking those unbuilt kits, especially if you were kind of famous for getting kits half built and then moving on to something else. I can't think of a better tribute from a group of guys who clearly wanted to honor their friend. And, then they get to take them home and have them on their shelf. And that's a constant reminder of the friendship that they had with that modeler. I thought it was awesome. I was pleased to see they actually won an award with the build as well. That was fantastic.
Well, and it goes even further. I I realized something as the days wore on at the show, and I kind of saved that until now. But after we had met them, it became apparent where I'd seen them before on the vendor floor. So when we got to the first day of the vendor room, there was a table full of guys selling a bunch of kits that had been started but not finished. That was them. So if anyone out there bought one of those started kits from the gentleman clearing out the estate, you have one of Face Davis's models, and you can keep this going.
Yeah, finish it up and think of him when you do. It just, again, it's a nice way for a modeler to live on in the memories of his friends.
Evan, did you see that build?
Yes, I did, and I also picked up one of those models, the partially started models in the vendor room, because I found a Stug kit that had been just barely started, and I didn't have that kit, but now I do, and I didn't realize at the time that was part of the group build. But
yeah, I didn't
part
either.
Of his that
until after our interview. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, so it's really cool actually that I will be able to finish a model that was one of his.
I know Brandon Jacobs, Agent 003, who helped us out, which we'll mention a little bit more here in a minute. He bought a big stack of those things. So.
Yes, he did.
So glad to see those go to good homes.
Well, we're at the end of this episode, and I'm assuming everybody has consumed their modeling fluid. Now, Evan, I'm assuming that your alcoholless flavored water was acceptable.
Yeah, I don't want to drink if I'm sick, so I'm just having a little bit of water here to keep myself hydrated, and this was sufficient for tiding me over while hanging out with you guys here and recording the episode.
Well, good. Mike?
Well, the Luckenbach Road Whiskey is a light whiskey. It's 3 years old. It's 88 proof, bottled in the Texas Hill Country. You know, it's a good sip. It's considering the age, it's a really good sip. It's mostly, if not entirely, corn, so it's a little sweet.
Yeah,
but it's really, really, really light. I mean, it's a straw colored. It's not even amber colored.
Yeah, well, if you're going to have a young whiskey, I think one that leans corn and sweet is probably better than one that leans rye.
It probably is.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good. So what do you got? You got the Jeffersons. What do you think, man? I've had that.
See, I should have had this long ago. This is a damn nice pour. As I said at the beginning, my modeling fluid was courtesy of Derek Post. It was Jefferson's, which, frankly, I should have had before now. It's an 82 proof, 41% ABV bourbon, and this is darn good. I'm here to tell you, I could see this being a regular drink for me. The only downside is I happen to know that it's not exactly cheap. Thank you, Derek. We appreciate the gift, and it was a good modeling fluid. I got no complaints. Guys, we're almost at the end of the episode. Do you have a shout out for this episode?
Go for it, Evan.
My shout out goes to everyone who just walked up to me and shook my hand and thanked me for my videos and just had a chat with me. Like I was talking about a little earlier, it means a lot to me that I can meet the people who I've made a difference to, and I've given back to the hobby, and it's helped them out a little bit. And it takes a lot of time to make my videos. I put a lot of effort into them, making them look a little more professional and everything recently, and I really appreciate some in-person, face-to-face discussions with people telling me that they like my videos and they appreciate the production I've put into them and all that good stuff. So it means a lot to me. It was really great just being able to meet so many people at the show, and it makes me not be able to wait for the next show because, oh man, this is just the best part of the hobby, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Mike?
Well, first off, I want to shout out Mr. John Fluck, who we met at the show. He's joined the ranks of our Patreon contributors. If you'd like to be like John and make a contribution to Plastic Model Mojo, you can go to www.patreon.com/plasticmodelmojo, and there you can make a contribution from any amount from $1 on up, and Patreon will manage that recurring contribution monthly for you. If you'd like to make a one-time contribution or manage your own recurring contribution, you can do that at PayPal. www.plasticmodelmojo.com. In the upper right-hand corner of our website, there's a heart icon. It'll take you directly to our PayPal link. And folks, the Nationals is a good example. The equipment we had to make that recording possible at the show has benefited from you guys' contributions. Our hosting, as our episodes get more frequent and a little longer, it certainly helped as well. We appreciate everything you guys have done to help us along the way, and it's going to help us keep bringing you Plastic Model Mojo for a long time. So thank you very much. Got a shout out, Dave?
My shout out is to the San Marcos crew. Listen, those shows don't just happen by themselves. Lynn Pilhofer, Rob Booth, JB, and all of the San Marcos crew that both planned and executed the show, and also the guys who actually were there day to day doing either security or registration or making sure that the seminars went off. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff to make a Nationals happen, and those guys mostly work in the background, thanklessly. So I'd like to thank them here. Your work was recognized and appreciated, and we wouldn't have had this without you, and I'm looking forward to Madison.
Well, I've got several, a couple more anyway.
Go ahead.
I want to shout out Brandon Jacob, Mojovian Special Agent 003, for all his fabulous suggestions. We got several comments back, and including ourselves, took in a few places that he had recommended, and just made our stay more enjoyable, being able to hit some local establishments and not hit the chains like we so harped against in the run-up to the show.
It was good food. I enjoyed it.
It was
really, really good.
Anybody else got another one?
Nope.
Well, I'm also going to shout out the voice of Bob, Mr. Bob Bear from Charlotte, North Carolina. Bob did a stupendous job emceeing the podcast roundtable during the seminar schedule. We had a good time doing that, and the caricatures he provided all the participating podcasts was just icing on the cake. It was actually at the front end. We got the dessert first.
Yes, we did, and I'm here to tell you that is one of my favorite things I ever got at a national. I continue to be amazed. I'm surprised that apparently I do a modeling podcast with Christian Slater, but or Bono. Some people say Bono, but that was just awesome. Thank you, Bob.
Bob had some nice entries at the show with his A-bomb models,
Yes.
but I hear he got TS'd in the A on the way home and had a little damage. Bob,
Yes.
I hope that's recoverable. That really sucks, man. But
Yeah.
your only consolation is it happened after the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those were beautiful models, and Bob did win an award. So
I know he did.
I was thrilled.
That's tough, man. And just add Bob to the list of folks we know who've had TSA disasters on the way to the national convention, or foreign security elements have also wrecked a few along the way. So be careful, folks. Get online and look at some packaging suggestions, but sometimes there's only so much you can do.
Yes.
The gorillas are strong. Anything else, guys, before we wrap this one up?
We're getting to the end here, Mike.
I know we are. Evan, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me on, as always.
And Dave, as we always say,
so many kits,
so little time. Until next time, guys. Evan, I don't know when we're going to see you again. Heritage Con, I hope.
For sure.
I hope it's soon enough, but I look forward to it.
All right, guys. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.